Welcome to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. I am Dhatri and today we are going to discuss about ASCHELMINTHES, their general characteristics and classification, and parasitic adaptations of helminths. So, the name ASCHELMINTHES was proposed by Grauben in 1910 and based on the presence or absence of coelom, that is body cavity, the triblastic animals or triploblastic animals, that means the animals which have 3 germ layers, ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. So, they are classified mainly into 3 major groups. So, first one are acoelomates, then second coelomates and third one are pseudocoelomates. So, the true coelom is of mesodermal origin, that means the coelom or body cavity is originated from the mesoderm and this is present in between the body wall and the internal organs. So, the internal organs like gut are present in the body cavity with the help of mesenteritis, and it has a covering, membranous covering, that is called as peritoneum. So, the true coelomates, that means those which are having the true coelom, they are called true coelomates or eucoelomates, and the acoelomates have the body cavity which is filled with the mesenchymal cells, which is mainly seen in Platyhelminthes and Rhicosela. And in the higher phyla like Annelida, Chordata, Mollusca, Arthropoda, we usually see true coelom and they are called as coelomates. And a small group of invertebrates with a body cavity that is not of mesodermal origin but looks like coelom, they are called as pseudocoelomates. And the pseudocoelom is the blastocoel, which is developed even after the embryonic stage. So, during embryonic stage we usually see this blastocoel, but in some animals even after the embryonic development we see this blastocoel, and that is usually called as pseudocoelom. And here peritoneal lining is absent. So, that is the main difference between the coelomates and pseudocoelomates, and this group of organisms which are having coelom which is not of mesodermal origin are called as pseudocoelomates. So, most of the platyhelminths and ASCHELMINTHs are parasites, and these parasitic animals, they are usually adapted to live in the host by 3 types of modifications like morphological, anatomical and physiological. So, this is mainly based on the biochemistry and physiology and habits and habitats of the host. So, they have to adapt themselves to live in the host. So, these modifications not only help in the survival of the parasites, but also for the embryonic development and perpetuation of the parasites inside the host. And these modifications depends on the degree of parasitism and number of hosts which are involved in the completion of the life cycle of the parasites. So, now we will look into the general characteristics of the ASCHELMINTHES. So, they are of bilateral symmetry, that means the organisms can be divided into 2 equal halves, and they are triploblastic in nature, that is they have 3 germ layers like mesoderm, ectoderm and endoderm, and they are pseudocoelomates, that is they have coelom which is not of mesodermal origin, and they are metazoans with a cylindrical worm like body, and they are mostly aquatic, freshwater or marine, and some are terrestrial, some are free living and some are parasitic in nature, and they are microscopic as well as large. That means some organisms are very small to be seen with the naked eye and some we can even see with the naked eye. And the anterior end lacks the distinct head and body is covered with a thick cuticle with usually we can see the spines or bristles over the cuticle. And the epidermis is syncytial or cellular. Syncytium is nothing but multiple nuclei are present within the single cell. So, that is called as syncytium. That means, in the cells which are actively dividing, we usually see such kind of appearance. So, this epidermis is syncytial or cellular, and musculature is usually contains longitudinal fibers. Then the digestive tract is straight from the mouth to anus, where we do not see any musculature except in the region of the pharynx. So, in other animals, usually the ingestion of food is through the propulsion of food in the gut muscles, but in these organisms it is due to the propulsion of gut, which is actually responsible for the ingestion of the food. And the respiratory system and circulatory system are absent, and excretory system consists of protonephridia. These are the structures which are involved in the elimination of waste from the body, and the sense organs are present, which are usually ciliated pits, papillae, bristles and eye spots, and mostly they are dioecious. That means the sexes are separate. So, male and female organisms are present, and the gonads are single or double, and eggs are microscopic in nature with a chitinous shell. That means chitin is present in their shell, and development is direct or indirect with a complete life history. Now, we will look into the classification of ASCHELMINTHES. So, there are mainly 5 classes which are divided in the ASCHELMINTHES. So, they are Nematoda, Nematomorpha, Rotifera, Gastrotricha and Kynorrhinca. So, here the class 1 is Nematoda. So, nematodes are popularly known as roundworms. They are again bilateral symmetry, that means they can be divided into 2 equal halves, triploblastic pseudocoelomate metazoans. That means they have 3 germ layers, ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm, and they are pseudocoelomates. That means they do not find any true coelom. And the animals live mostly in the moist soils, fresh water, sea water. They are either free living or parasitic in nature, and they usually live on plants or animals, and they include the organisms which will usually destroy the food crops, domestic animals and man, and they are the important parasitic group that are infecting the animals. And the body of this nematode, they are long, cylindrical in nature, and they have taping at their end, and they have highly variable. That means the length can be, they range from 1 millimeter to about 5 centimeter, and the body is enclosed in a very tough cuticle which is rigid, transparent or semi-transparent, and because this cuticle, it allows the parasites to survive inside the host organism. And the body cavity is pseudocoelom. That means the body cavity is present, but it is not of mesodermal origin, and mesodermal peritoneal lining is absent in the pseudocoelom. Then the head, cilia and segmentation are lacking. That means we do not find any head or cilia or segmentation, and the mouth have usually 3 to 6 lips around, and most of the organisms they even lack these lips. And the digestive tract is straight from the mouth to anus with a musculature seen in the region of the pharynx. and the respiratory and circulatory system are completely absent, and the nervous system comprises of circumpharyngeal ring with attached ganglia with 6 anterior and posterior sense organs and nerves. So, there are special sense organs called amphids and phasmids. Amphids are the anterior sense organs and phasmids are the posterior sense organs, and papillae are present in the head and tail region. And the excretory system is different in the different species of this phylum, and with few exceptions, this parasitic nematodes have separate sexes. That means the organisms which are having male and reproductive organs is usually seen. The posterior end of the males is curved, whereas in the females it is straight, and males are smaller than the females, and males have a pair of spicules near the cloaca, and in the females the genital opening is at the center of the body. And hermaphrodites, that means the organism which is having the both sexual organs, is seen in some organisms. And parthenogenesis, that means so the development of embryo within the female organism without any fertilization. So, that is seen in some organisms, and the fertilization is usually internal, and development is indirect, which have 4 larval stages, and usually the 4th larval stage is of infective stage, and there may be or may not be any intermediate host during their development. So, the examples are Ascaris lumbricoides, which is roundworm, and here are the list of various organisms which belongs to this class. Then the second class is Nematomorpha. So, its another name is called as Gordiaceae, which and the other common name is horsehair worm. So, it's small class of very long animals. They are usually parasites and insects during the larval stages, while adults are free living in their nature. And they are triploblastic animals, that means they consist of ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm, and they have pseudocoelom, that means the coelom which is not of mesodermal origin, and they differ from the other classes of the organisms which are present to this phylum. And the digestive system is well developed in the larval stages, and the adult worm, they do not feed, hence the reproduction is the major function. And even the excretory system of these organisms also differs from the other organisms belonging to the other classes of this phylum. And circulatory, respiratory and excretory systems are completely absent, and the nervous system consists of circumpharyngeal nerves and single midventral nerve cord, and the sexes are separate with paired gonads and gonoducts, and fertilization is external, and egg develops into a larva which is called gordid larva. So, examples are Nectonema and others. Then the third class is Rotifera, and the animals belonging to this class Rotifera are fresh water pond, present in the fresh water ponds, lakes, and mostly they are seen in sea, and majority of them are free living, but some are even parasitic in their nature, and they are microscopic in their size, and they have trochosphere at their surface, and they are bilateral symmetrical, they are unsegmented, and they are divided into head, trunk and tail. They are known as wheel animalcules. So, animalcules means small animals with the anterior end of the body bearing the ciliary apparatus corona. That means they have the cilia at one end which is called as corona, and the body wall is syncytial and is covered by the cuticle, which is called as lorica. So, syncytial means the single cell with multiple nuclei. So, it has a cuticle at the surface. So, in adults most of the tissues are syncytial and the alimentary canal is usually complete with muscular pharynx, and this pharynx has movable jaws known as mastax, which serves as the food grinding organs, and there are no organs for respiration and circulation, and the excretory system consists of flame cells, and the nervous system is very simple with a single ganglion without any nerve cells or nerve cords, and eye spots are usually present. And the sexes are separate in these animals and they exhibit sexual dimorphism, and males are small and degenerate, or sometimes even they are absent. And the reproduction is through sexual as well as parthenogenetic, that means the complete development of embryo occurs within the female without any fertilization, and both are ovoviviparous and viviparous. So, ovoviviparous means the cells, the egg cells will mature within the body of the female organism, that means they develop and hatch within the female organism like in the snakes. And viviparous means, so they are giving birth, so that means the development of complete organism takes place within the body, so they are giving birth to the newborns, and they are seen in these animals, and no larval stages are present during the development. And the fourth class is gastrotricha. So, these are small group of free living organisms which are microscopic. They are both marine and freshwater, and they have worm like segmented body. They have ventral surface is flat with cilia, and the locomotion is mainly due to the cilia which is present on the surface of the body, and the cuticle is thin, and the body cavity is pseudocoelom, and the digestive tract is complete, and the mouth is surrounded by the bristles. Respiratory and circulatory systems are completely absent, and excretory system consists of protonephridia with one or more ventral glands, and nervous system consists of cerebral ganglion and lateral longitudinal nerves, and the sexes are united or only females are present, and the reproduction is primarily through sexual method, and the development is directly developed into the zygote or from unfertilized ova, that is parthenogenic in nature. Then the fifth class is Chinorhyncha. It is also called as Echinodera. So, they are cylindrical animals which are minute, present in the muddy bottoms of the marine habitats, and the body is segmented into 13 rings, and the cuticle is spiny without any cilia, and they are having retractable head covered with the circlets of spines, and the digestive tract is complete. Stomach intestine is expanded, and anus is having the terminal retractile ring. So, the dorsal cerebral ganglion and a mid-ventral nerve having ganglion are present in the nervous system, and the excretory system consists of one pair of short protonephridial tubes, and flame bulb is also present in the excretory system, and the sexes are separate, and gonads are tubular sacs. Then pineal spicules are present in the males, and the development is indirect with several larval stages and metamorphosis. Now we will discuss about parasitic adaptations of helminths. So, how these helminths have adapted various morphological, anatomical and physiological adaptations to survive inside the host. So, first we will discuss about the morphological adaptation, that is the modification in body shape. So, usually the parasites, they lack endoskeleton or exoskeleton because they have to survive inside the host. So, the body cavity is usually filled with the body fluids and they offer flexibility of the body because the parasite of the tissue should confine in the host, and at the same time there is rigidity because they have to maintain the shape of the parasite, and it is essential for the survival of the parasite inside the host tissue. And the body walls are well defined musculature in the cystode parasites, and the muscles help in the maintaining the long body to fit into the intestine of the host. And the next one is presence of tough cuticle. So, the intestine of the host has the environment, that is it will have various enzymes that will be digesting the parasites. So, the intestines are the centers for the digestion, and various digestive enzymes and acids, they will be acting on the food which is present in the intestine. So, as these acid and digestive enzymes are capable of acting on the tissue of the parasite in the intestine, so the parasites have to escape this digestion and that is the digestive enzymes and acids. Hence, to solve this problem, these parasites they adopted a tough cuticle to resist these digestive enzymes and acids. So, this cuticle helps in the survival of the parasite inside the intestine of the host. The next adaptation is loss of locomotory organs. So, the adult parasites they live for their entire life in the body of the host, and they are always found attached to the tissue of the host and they exhibit limited movements. So, as these parasites they feed on semi-digested or completely digested food of the host, there is no need for the movement of these parasites for the search of the food. Therefore, these locomotory organs are either completely absent or minimized. Suppose the parasite is including 2 or more hosts for the development of their life cycle. That means, if the parasite has to come out of the host for some steps of their life cycle, they have to maintain these locomotory organs. So, in such case either cilia or flagella are present at that latest larval stage, and later when again this parasite enters the host, the locomotory organs will get disappeared. So, when it finds the new host. To aid the dispersal of larvae, many of these organisms are attached through the cement glands or hooks, which will attach themselves to the another host, and further dispersal of parasite takes place. And the next adaptation is development of adhesive or anchoring organs. So, helminths are modified for adhesion of the body into the host. So, this is essential for the survival of the parasites inside the host. So, without such adhesive organs, the parasites can be flushed out from the intestine through peristaltic movements, and this occurs during the digestion of the food inside the intestine of the host. Therefore, suckers of the parasitic flatworms they help in the attachment of these parasites into the host, that is intestine of the host. So, in tapeworm, the solex it bears the sucking pockets or accessory suckers or lateral sucking grooves, and in some cestodes and nematodes these hooks and hook like structures are present for the attachment of these parasitic organisms to the host. And next set of adaptations are the physiological adaptations. So, first one is anaerobic respiration. So, the helminths they usually live in the intestine or the tissue of the liver of the host. So, the partial pressure of the oxygen which is present is adequate for the survival of these parasites. Hence, the amount of energy produced by the parasite is adequate to allow the parasite to survive and multiply without killing the host. Therefore, they can usually survive in the anaerobic condition, that is in the condition where the minimum oxygen levels or complete absence of oxygen is present. Then the next adaptation is degeneration of digestive system. So, some of the adult parasites live in the intestine of the host animals, and these intestines of the host animals, they contain completely or partially digested food. As the digestive food is present in the form of fluid, there is no need for further processing of this food, and the digestive system of most of the endoparasites is reduced, simplified or completely absent. And there are some special digestive glands which are present. So, in extreme cases, this digestive system is completely absent, and digestion is mostly by intracellular digestion, which is mainly occurs by the lysozyme of the cells of the parasite. So, lysozymes are the cellular organelle which usually consists of digestive enzymes which will digest the food within the cell through phagocytosis or pinocytosis. And the next adaptation is production of anti-enzymes. So, most of the helminth parasites, particularly these intestinal parasites, they secrete some anti-enzymes which inhibit the digestive enzymes of the host. So, as the intestine of the host, they produce various enzymes to digest the food as well as the parasites. So, these parasites, they in turn secrete some anti-enzymes which are acting on the enzymes of the host, and they will inhibit the enzymes of the host. Hence, this helps in the survival of the parasite, and this is another method of protection from gastric juices and digestive enzymes of the host. And the next adaptation is osmotic pressure of body fluids of parasites. So, the osmotic pressure of the interior of the parasitic worms is same as that of the host. So, there is no osmotic stress that is generated inside the parasite. So, if this is not happening, the parasite has to spend lot of energy for maintaining the osmotic pressure of its body. Therefore, the parasite usually adapts itself with the osmotic pressure of the host to maintain the same osmotic pressure of the host. And the next adaptation is absence or degeneration of sensory organs. So, usually the parasite lives inside the body of the host throughout their life, and the conditions of the body of the parasite is relatively constant with that of the host, and the parasites are usually present in the highly protected environment where they are free from the predators. Hence, the parasites have very limited sensory organs and mostly only to detect the chemical composition of the fluids in the host where they are living. And in extreme cases, the parasites may not have the sensory organs also. That means they may have minimum sensory organs, or sometimes they may be completely absent also. So, in the life history of the parasite, at least one larval stage is free living, and sometimes the parasite has to get out of the body of the host and they have to complete their life cycle. So, in such cases, some sensory organs, especially those involved in the sensing light, chemical and physiological conditions of their surrounding environment is necessary, and these sensory organs might disappear in the later stages of the development. And the next adaptation is enhanced reproductive potential. So, the life cycle of the helminth parasites is complicated and it requires more than one host to complete their life cycle in their developmental process. And this is important for the dispersal of the parasite in the host population. So, the transfer from one host to second host, that is primary to secondary host, is passive in most of the cases, and larval form of the parasite should search for the secondary host with a limited amount of time. If it fails to search for the secondary host within the limited period of time, then usually the parasites will die. So, to prevent such kind of condition, usually the parasites will produce large number of eggs, and to produce such large number of eggs, the reproductive system of parasite is modified. And in several helminth parasites, the reproductive organs or reproductive system is having the large portion of the body cavity, and the ovary is highly branched, and these branches are filled in the body cavity. And self fertilization is seen in the most of these parasites, and this is to prevent the chance of meeting the mate. And next adaptation is multiple larval stage. So, the life cycle of several helminth parasites, they usually include several larval stages, and in some cases these larvae are motile and swim freely in the water, and this ensure rapid and widespread dispersal of the species and spread the parasite from one host to the second host, that is the primary host to the secondary host. And this is essential for the adult animals to survive and live inside the host. And the secondary host or the intermediate host will help in the dispersal and spread of the parasite, and several larval forms are capable of multiplying within the host, and this increases the chance of survival of the larval form of the parasite and to find the suitable intermediary host during the development of their life cycle. However, this is not the general rule. Sometimes there may be some exceptions for this rule, and there are helminth parasites which have single larval form and direct transfer of one host to another host, as in the case of Ascaris. So, there are some helminth parasites which have multiple larval forms and two hosts, that is in case of Fasciola, like there is sheep and human, and multiple hosts are also present. So, therefore, today we have discussed about the general characteristics and classification of Aschelminthes, and what are the different morphological, physiological and anatomical modifications which are adapted by these helminths as a parasites to survive inside the host.